Natalie thought she had it all. The cozy suburban house, the 4 beautiful kids, and the husband every woman envied. Vincent, the guy who could fix a leaky faucet and make lasagna that would make your nonna weep. But perfect wasn't enough for her. Because why enjoy your vanilla sundae when you could toss it on the floor and go for a stale donut? Vincent was clueless at first. The late nights, the extra care Natalie put into her makeup before grocery runs, and the phone she guarded like it was the nuclear codes, he chalked it all up to stress. Maybe she's picking up Pilates again, he joked to himself one night, stirring a pot of spaghetti. Turns out, Natalie wasn't stretching at a studio. She was bending over backward for her younger co-worker, Ryan. A charming guy, if you considered smirking and bad cologne charming. But let's rewind. Natalie didn't set out to ruin her life. It started small. Texts that seemed innocent enough, followed by coffee breaks that got a little too personal. Before long, Ryan was her escape from a life she felt had grown dull. He made her feel alive, spontaneous, reckless. Never mind that he was married. Details. Vincent, meanwhile, was at home juggling kids, work, and the occasional hope that Natalie might still laugh at his terrible dad jokes. He noticed her drifting, but every time he tried to ask what was wrong, she'd brush it off. "I'm just tired, Vin," she'd say, flashing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And because Vincent loved her, he believed her. Until one evening, when Natalie's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, and curiosity got the better of him. Vincent didn't consider himself a snoop. He wasn't the type to pry into his wife's personal stuff. But that night, something felt off. Natalie had been in their bedroom for nearly an hour, supposedly folding laundry. Her phone sat unattended on the kitchen counter, a rare sight since she'd been glued to it for months. It buzzed again, lighting up with the oh-so-innocent preview. "Can't stop thinking about last night." "Last night?" Vincent mumbled, his heart doing a strange mix of skipping and sinking. Natalie had claimed she was at book club, discussing Pride and Prejudice. Unless Jane Austen suddenly started writing steamy thrillers, something wasn't adding up. Against his better judgment, he picked up the phone. Password? Easy. Their anniversary. Ironic, really. Within seconds, his eyes scanned messages that turned his blood cold. Ryan wasn't just her co-worker. He was her extracurricular activity. The flirty texts, the emojis that needed a warning label, the pictures. God, the pictures. Vincent stared at the screen, his knuckles white as he gripped the phone. The sound of Natalie's laughter drifted down the hall, soft, sweet, and unbearably fake. He couldn't sit on this. Not now. Marching into the bedroom, Vincent found Natalie perched on the bed, folding a pair of jeans with the precision of a heart surgeon. She looked up, startled, as he held up her phone. "Hey babe, lose something?" His voice was calm, too calm, like the silence before a thunderstorm. Natalie blinked. "Vincent? What's wrong?" He tossed the phone onto the bed. "I don't know, Natalie. You tell me. Maybe Ryan can help." Her face drained of color. I don't know what you're—" "Cut the crap, Natalie." Vincent's voice sharpened, the calm melting into something more jagged. "I saw the texts. I saw the pictures. You really think I wouldn't notice? You're not exactly the FBI when it comes to covering your tracks." For a moment she was silent, her hands trembling as she clutched the jeans. "Vincent, it's not what you think," she stammered. "It didn't mean anything. I was stupid." "Oh, stupid? That's the word you're going with?" He barked a bitter laugh. "What's next? A PowerPoint presentation about how it was just a phase?" Tears welled in her eyes, but Vincent wasn't about to let her off the hook. "Tell me, Natalie, what exactly didn't mean anything? The texts? The pictures? Or maybe it was the part where you threw our marriage in the trash?" "Please, Vincent," she begged, her voice cracking. "I'll fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." "Fix this?" He stared at her, his expression a mix of anger and disbelief. "You don't fix a train wreck, Natalie. You sweep up the pieces and hope nobody else gets hurt." She reached for him, but he stepped back. "No," he said firmly. "You don't get to play the victim, not after this. I trusted you, Natalie. I loved you. And you threw it all away for what? Some low-rent Casanova? Vin, I made a mistake. No, Natalie, he interrupted. Leaving the stove on is a mistake. Forgetting the kids' soccer game is a mistake. What you did? That's betrayal. And there's no coming back from that. He turned and walked out, leaving Natalie sitting on the bed, clutching her phone like it was the last lifeline in a sinking ship. Vincent didn't sleep that night. How could he? Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those messages, those pictures, and worst of all, Ryan's smug grin in his mind's eye. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the absurdity of it all. Natalie had risked everything for Ryan, a guy whose idea of sophistication was probably using ranch dressing on everything. The next morning, the house was unusually quiet. Natalie had made herself scarce, hiding in the guest room like a kid avoiding punishment. Vincent appreciated the space. He needed time to think. Divorce. The word echoed in his head like a church bell. But then there were the kids. Emily, Jake, Sophie, and little Max. What would this do to them? He was sipping his second cup of coffee when Natalie finally emerged, looking like she hadn't slept either. Her hair was a mess, and her face was blotchy from crying. She hovered by the kitchen door like a guilty child caught sneaking cookies. "Morning," she mumbled. Vincent didn't look up. "Morning." She shuffled in, sitting across from him at the table. "Vincent, can we talk?" He set his mug down, finally meeting her gaze. "Oh, now you want to talk? Funny. That would have been helpful before you decided to audition for Worst Wife of the Year." She winced but pressed on. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but I still love you. We can fix this. I can fix this." Vincent raised an eyebrow. "Love me? Natalie, you don't do this to someone you love. You don't stab them in the back and then expect a hug." "I was stupid," she said, her voice trembling. "I let things get out of control, but it didn't mean anything. He didn't mean anything." "Oh, so what? It's better because you trashed our marriage for someone you didn't even care about?" Vincent leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Help me out here, Natalie. I'm trying to figure out which part of this was supposed to make sense." She bit her lip, tears spilling over. "Vin, I'm begging you. Don't throw us away. Don't throw the family away." He laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "I'm throwing it away? Oh, that's rich. You're the one who set this on fire and danced around the flames, Natalie. I'm just standing here watching it burn." Her shoulders shook as she sobbed, but Vincent wasn't moved. He'd spent the last few hours grieving the woman he thought he married. Now, all that was left was clarity and anger. "I'm filing for divorce," he said bluntly, cutting through her wails. "You can cry, you can beg, you can write me 100 sappy letters. None of it changes what you did. None of it brings back what you destroyed." "Please, Vincent," she whispered, her voice breaking. The kids, he interrupted, his tone softening but still firm. "Will always have me. I'll make sure they're okay. But you and me, we're done." He stood up, grabbing his keys from the counter. "I'll be back later. Make sure you tell Ryan the good news." And with that, Vincent walked out the door, leaving Natalie crumpled at the kitchen table, a broken woman in a shattered home. Vincent drove aimlessly through the streets, the mid-afternoon sun glaring down on the windshield. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary as the realization of Natalie's betrayal kept replaying in his mind. Every red light felt like an eternity, giving him too much time to think. He eventually pulled into the parking lot of a quiet park, the one where he used to take the kids when they were little. The swing swayed gently in the breeze, empty now, a stark contrast to the laughter he remembered. He leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes, trying to steady his breathing. Then his phone rang. It was Claire, his younger sister, the one who always seemed to have a sixth sense for when things were going wrong. He sighed, answering on the second ring. "Hey, Claire." "Vin, what's up? You sound off," she said, skipping the usual pleasantries. Typical Claire, straight to the point. He hesitated, staring out at the park as a couple walked by, hand in hand. The sight felt like a cruel joke. "Natalie cheated on me," he said finally, his voice flat. There was a pause on the other end of the line. What? Claire's voice was sharp, disbelief cutting through the static. You heard me, he replied. She's been sneaking around with some guy from her office. I found the texts and pictures. Vincent, oh my God, are you okay? Wait, stupid question. Of course you're not okay. Where are you? At the park, just sitting here, trying to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do now. Claire let out a slow breath, her anger simmering beneath the surface. Do you need me to come over? We can talk, or I can just sit with you and rage silently. Whatever you need. He almost smiled at that. Thanks, but I'm good. I just needed to get away for a bit, clear my head. Does she know you know? Oh, she knows, Vincent said bitterly. She tried to deny it at first. Then the waterworks started. You know the drill. That's disgusting, Claire snapped. And the kids? Do they know anything? No, he said firmly. And they won't. Not yet. I'll figure out how to handle that later. Claire's voice softened. Listen, Vin. You're going to get through this. I know it feels like the end of the world, but you're stronger than this. And you're not alone. I know, he said quietly. Thanks, Claire. I'll call you later. You better, she replied before hanging up. Vincent stayed in the car a while longer, watching the world go on around him as if nothing had happened. Eventually, he drove back home. By the time he walked in, the late afternoon sun was streaming through the windows, painting the living room in a soft golden light. Natalie was on the couch, curled up under a blanket, clutching a pillow to her chest. She looked up when he entered, her eyes swollen from crying. You came back, she said softly. For the kids, he replied, his voice cold and steady. She opened her mouth to say something, but Vincent didn't stop to listen. He walked past her, up the stairs, and into their bedroom, shutting the door behind him. Whatever conversation she wanted to have could wait. For now, he needed space. That evening, the house was suffocatingly quiet. Vincent sat at the edge of their bed, staring at the floor, the weight of everything pressing down on him. He could hear Natalie downstairs, pacing in the living room. Her footsteps were uneven, stopping every so often, like she was mustering the courage to come upstairs. Eventually she did. There was a soft knock on the door before it creaked open. Natalie peeked her head in, her face a mixture of fear and desperation. Vin? Can we please talk? Vincent didn't look at her. What's left to say, Natalie? You cheated. I know. The end. She stepped inside, wringing her hands nervously. It's not that simple. Don't, Vincent interrupted, finally looking up. Don't you dare say it's not that simple. You made it simple the second you decided to sneak around behind my back. Natalie flinched but didn't back down. I know I hurt you. I know I betrayed you, but I didn't mean for this to happen. Didn't mean for this to happen? Vincent's voice rose, incredulous. What? You just tripped and fell into another guy's bed? Spare me, Natalie. She blinked rapidly, her tears threatening to spill again. It wasn't like that. I wasn't thinking straight. I was, I don't know, lost. Lost? Vincent laughed bitterly. You weren't lost when you were texting him. You weren't lost when you sent him those pictures. And you sure as hell weren't lost when you went to meet him. You knew exactly what you were doing. She sat down on the chair by the dresser, her hands trembling. I don't know why I did it, she said softly. I wasn't unhappy with you, Vin. I wasn't unhappy with our family. I wanted to feel something different. Vincent stared at her, his anger giving way to cold disbelief. Something different? You threw away our life for some cheap thrill? For what? Attention? Validation? Natalie didn't respond, her silence speaking volumes. He shook his head, standing up and pacing the room. You know what the worst part is, Natalie? I would have done anything for you. Anything. All you had to do was talk to me. Tell me how you felt. But instead, you chose him. I know, she whispered, her voice barely audible, and I hate myself for it. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make this right if you let me." Vincent stopped and turned to face her. Make this right? How? By pretending it never happened? By playing the perfect wife until I forget? Newsflash, Natalie, I won't forget, ever. Tears streamed down her face, but Vincent didn't soften. "You broke us," he continued. "You broke me, and you don't just come back from that with a few apologies and promises." "What about the kids?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Do you really want to break up our family? They need both of us." "They need stability," Vincent shot back. "They need honesty. And right now, the only thing I'm sure of is that staying in this broken marriage isn't going to give them either." Natalie sobbed quietly, burying her face in her hands. Vincent didn't move to comfort her. He couldn't. Not anymore. "We'll talk about the next steps tomorrow," he said finally, his voice drained. He walked out, leaving her alone in the dimly lit bedroom, the weight of her choices crashing down around her. Before you find out what happens next, please subscribe to the channel. The next morning, Vincent sat at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee untouched in front of him. His mind was already racing ahead, thinking of lawyers, custody agreements, and what normal might look like after the dust settled. Natalie walked in hesitantly, holding a notepad and pen. She looked exhausted, but her expression was determined. "We need to talk," she said, sitting across from him. Vincent didn't look up. "I figured." She placed the notepad on the table, tapping it nervously. "I wrote down a few ideas. About the kids, the house, everything." "Good," Vincent said flatly, finally meeting her eyes. "Because I've already made my decision. We're divorcing." Natalie flinched but nodded. "I know you're angry and hurt, but can't we at least try counseling, for the kids' sake?" "Don't," Vincent snapped, his voice cutting like a blade. "Don't hide behind the kids. This isn't about them. It's about you and the choices you made." Her eyes welled up, but she held his gaze. "Vin, I'm not hiding. I know I screwed up, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this right." "You can't make this right, Natalie," Vincent said, his tone calmer now but no less firm. "This isn't a puzzle you can piece back together. You shattered it, and even if you glue the pieces, the cracks will still be there." She looked down at the notepad, her fingers trembling. "What about the kids? How do we tell them? How do we explain—" "I'll tell them," Vincent interrupted. "They don't need to know every detail, but they deserve the truth. That their mom and dad can't be together anymore because sometimes things break." Natalie's tears spilled over. "You mean because I broke it?" she whispered. Vincent didn't respond. He stood up, picking up his coffee mug and rinsing it in the sink. "I'm calling the lawyer today. We'll figure out custody and the house. You'll get your fair share. I'm not going to fight dirty, Natalie, but don't mistake that for forgiveness." Before Natalie could respond, the sound of the front door opening cut through the room. Claire walked in unannounced, her expression a mix of concern and barely restrained fury. "Well?" Claire said, dropping her purse on the counter. "This is awkward." Natalie flushed, standing quickly. "Claire, Save it," Claire said sharply, holding up a hand. "I'm not here for you. I'm here for my brother." Vincent sighed. "Claire, this isn't the time." "Actually, it is," Claire shot back. She turned to Natalie, her eyes narrowing. "You have some nerve, you know that? Cheating on a guy like Vincent. I hope Ryan or whatever his name is was worth it." "Claire, stop," Vincent said firmly. "I don't need you fighting my battles." "You're right," Claire replied, turning back to him. "But I'm your sister, and I'm not going to sit back while she plays the victim in all of this." Natalie wiped her tears, her voice shaking. "I'm not playing the victim. I know what I did, and I'm trying to fix it." Claire laughed bitterly. "Fix it? Honey, the Titanic sank. You can rearrange the deck chairs all you want, but this ship isn't coming back up." "Enough," Vincent said, his tone cutting through the tension. "Claire, I appreciate you checking on me, but I've got this. Natalie and I need to handle this ourselves." Claire hesitated, her lips pursed, but she finally nodded. "Fine, but I'm not going far. Call me if you need anything." As Claire left, the silence between Vincent and Natalie was deafening. She sat back down, looking defeated. "She's right, you know," she said softly. "I sank us." Vincent leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. "At least you admit it. Now the only thing left to do is figure out how to keep the kids afloat." That afternoon, Vincent sat with his lawyer, discussing logistics. Divorce was never going to be clean, but he was determined to keep it civil, for the kids. He laid out his priorities: equal custody, a stable home environment, and as little disruption to the children's lives as possible. By the time he got home, the weight of reality was fully settling in. Natalie was in the living room, sitting stiffly on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen. She looked up when Vincent entered, her expression a mixture of dread and hope. "Did you see the lawyer?" she asked cautiously. "Yeah," he replied, shrugging off his jacket. "We talked about next steps." She nodded, fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. "And the kids? When are we going to tell them?" "Tonight," Vincent said firmly. "They deserve to hear it from both of us. And we're keeping it simple. No blame, no details, just the truth." Natalie swallowed hard, nodding. "Okay, I'll follow your lead." Dinner that evening was quiet, the tension so thick even the kids seemed to notice. Emily, their oldest, kept glancing between her parents, her brow furrowed. Jake and Sophie whispered to each other, while little Max just pushed his peas around on his plate. After they finished eating, Vincent cleared his throat. "Kids, can you all come sit in the living room? Mom and I need to talk to you about something important." The four of them shuffled to the couch, exchanging nervous glances. Vincent and Natalie sat across from them, both visibly tense. Natalie gripped the edge of her seat, while Vincent leaned forward, clasping his hands together. Vincent started. "Listen, guys, there's no easy way to say this, but your mom and I have decided that we can't stay married." Emily's eyes widened. "What? Are you serious?" "Yes," Vincent said gently. "We've thought about it a lot, and we both agree it's the best thing for all of us." Sophie, their middle child, looked on the verge of tears. "But why? Did you guys fight?" Natalie jumped in, her voice shaky but steady. "No, sweetie, it's not about fighting. Sometimes grown-ups, they just can't stay together the way they used to. But we both love you very much. That will never change." Max frowned. "So, you're not going to live together anymore?" Vincent shook his head. "No, buddy, but you'll still see both of us all the time. We'll make sure of that." Emily folded her arms, glaring. "This is stupid. Why can't you just fix it?" Natalie flinched, and Vincent sighed. "Sometimes things can't be fixed, Em. But we're going to do everything we can to make this as easy as possible for you guys." The room fell into silence, broken only by quiet sniffles. Vincent reached out, placing a reassuring hand on Max's shoulder. "I know this is hard, and it's okay to feel upset, or confused, or even angry. You can talk to us about anything, anytime. We're still your mom and dad. That's not going to change." The conversation ended with hugs and tears, and Vincent did his best to reassure the kids as they slowly went upstairs to their rooms. Natalie lingered in the living room, her face pale. "You handled that well," she said softly. "Not well enough," Vincent replied, his voice tired. "But it's done." Natalie hesitated. "I'm going to stay in the guest room for now, until we figure out what's next." Vincent nodded without looking at her. "Good idea." As she walked away, he collapsed onto the couch, staring up at the ceiling. The days after the talk with the kids were a blur. Natalie stayed out of Vincent's way, retreating to the guest room and tiptoeing around the house like a ghost. The kids, meanwhile, stuck to each other, whispering and casting worried glances at their parents. One afternoon, as Vincent was sorting through some legal documents in the kitchen, the doorbell rang. He wasn't expecting anyone. When he opened the door, Claire stood there, holding a tray of coffee and a bag of pastries. "I come bearing caffeine and carbs," she announced, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Claire, I'm not in the mood for a pep talk," Vincent said, shutting the door. "Good, because I didn't bring one," she replied, setting the tray on the counter. "I brought coffee, which is better than any speech." Vincent sighed but couldn't help a faint smile as he grabbed a cup. Fine, you've got 5 minutes. Claire leaned against the counter, studying her brother. How's it going? He sipped his coffee. Same as yesterday, and the day before that. The kids are holding it together. Natalie's existing, and I'm just trying to figure out how to keep everything from falling apart. She nodded, her expression softening. I know this sucks, Vin, but you're doing the best you can. And the fact that you're putting the kids first, that's what matters. Vincent stared into his cup, his voice quieter. They don't deserve this. None of this is their fault. No, it's not, Claire agreed. But they have you, and that's more than a lot of kids in situations like this. You'll get them through it. And yourself, too. He gave a faint nod, the corners of his mouth twitching upward. Thanks, Claire. Anytime, she said with a grin. Now tell me you're at least considering some kind of distraction. Something for yourself. Vincent raised an eyebrow. Like what? Golf? A midlife crisis sports car? Claire smirked. Not quite what I meant, but maybe reconnecting with people. Old friends? New friends? He gave her a look, and she held up her hands defensively. I'm not saying jump into anything. Just don't lock yourself in a cage, okay? Life's messy, but it's also not over. Vincent didn't answer, but her words lingered as she left. That night, after the kids went to bed, he scrolled through his phone, flipping through contacts he hadn't thought about in years. His thumb paused over a name, Sophia. They'd been friends in college, lost touch over the years, but he remembered her as someone who could make him laugh when life got too heavy. After a moment's hesitation, he sent a simple message. Hey, Sophia. It's Vincent. Been a while. How are you? He set the phone down, not expecting much, but when it buzzed 10 minutes later, he couldn't help the small smile that tugged at his lips. Sophia's response was short and cheerful. Vincent! Wow, it has been a while. I'm good. How about you? Vincent stared at the message for a moment, a faint smile playing on his lips. He started typing and retyping his reply, finally settling on, Life's been complicated. Would you be up for catching up over coffee? The dots indicating her typing appeared almost immediately. Absolutely. Name the time and place. The next morning, after dropping the kids at school, Vincent found himself standing outside a small cafe downtown. It was one of those artsy places that Natalie used to drag him to, with mismatched chairs and an endless menu of drinks he couldn't pronounce. He spotted Sophia instantly. She hadn't changed much, still the same bright smile and curly hair that seemed to have a personality of its own. Vincent, she said, standing to give him a hug. It's been forever. Too long, he agreed, sitting down across from her. Thanks for meeting me on such short notice. Are you kidding? I'm thrilled you reached out, she said, her eyes sparkling with genuine warmth. So, what's this complicated life of yours all about? Vincent hesitated, sipping his coffee. Long story short, Natalie cheated and we're divorcing. Sophia's expression shifted to shock, then sympathy. Oh, Vincent, I'm so sorry. Don't be, he said, surprising himself with how steady his voice was. It's been rough, but I'm handling it. The kids are my focus right now. Sophia nodded, her expression thoughtful. Well, for what it's worth, you've always been one of the strongest people I know. If anyone can come out of this stronger, it's you. He chuckled. I appreciate the vote of confidence. I could definitely use it these days. The conversation flowed easily after that. They talked about old times, inside jokes from college, the time Vincent got them both kicked out of a philosophy class for debating too loudly, and Sophia's attempts at baking that usually ended in disaster. For the first time in what felt like forever, Vincent laughed. Really laughed. By the time they finished their coffee, the tension in his chest had eased just a little. As they walked out of the cafe, Sophia turned to him with a teasing smile. So, next time you're feeling complicated, you know where to find me. He grinned. I might just take you up on that. As he drove home, he couldn't help but feel a flicker of something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. Life wasn't magically better, and there was still a long road ahead, but for the first time, he could see a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. The day of the divorce hearing came faster than Vincent had anticipated. The courtroom wasn't as intimidating as he'd imagined. Plain walls, rows of benches, and a judge who looked like she'd seen every kind of heartbreak imaginable. Natalie sat a few feet away, her posture stiff, her eyes fixed on the table in front of her. Vincent tried not to look at her. He focused on the facts, the paperwork, and the lawyer beside him. This wasn't about revenge or anger anymore. It was about closure, finality. The proceedings were relatively quick. Both sides had already agreed on the division of assets. The house would go to Natalie so the kids could have stability. Custody was shared equally, with Vincent taking weekends and a few weekdays. He insisted on being involved in every decision about the kids, and Natalie agreed without argument. When it was over, the judge gave a brief, neutral statement. Divorce granted. Just 2 words, but they carried the weight of an entire chapter ending. As they exited the courthouse, Natalie turned to him. "Vincent," she said hesitantly, "thank you for not making this harder than it had to be." He glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "I didn't do it for you. I did it for the kids." She nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. "I know." Without another word, they went their separate ways. That evening, Vincent had the kids over for dinner at his new apartment. It was smaller than the house, but cozy. As they sat around the table eating pizza, the mood was lighter than he expected. The kids seemed to appreciate the effort he'd put into making the place feel like home. "This is actually kind of cool," Jake said, glancing around. "Feels like a clubhouse." "Yeah," Emily agreed, though her tone was more reserved. "It's different, but not bad." Vincent smiled. "Well, that's the idea. Different doesn't have to mean worse. It just means we're trying something new." Sophie hesitated before speaking up. "So, you're not mad at Mom anymore?" Vincent set down his slice of pizza, thinking carefully before answering. "I was mad for a long time, Sophie, but being mad doesn't help anyone. What matters now is making sure you guys are okay." "Are you okay, Dad?" Max asked, his voice small. Vincent reached over and ruffled Max's hair. "I'm getting there, buddy, and having you guys here helps more than anything." For the first time in months, Vincent felt a sense of peace. A few weeks had passed since the divorce was finalized, and life was slowly settling into a new rhythm. Vincent's time with the kids became the highlight of his week. They were adapting surprisingly well, falling into the routine of splitting time between their parents' homes. One Friday evening, as Vincent was tidying up after the kids had gone back to Natalie's, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Sophia. "Still alive, or have the kids staged a coup yet?" He smiled and replied, "Barely holding on, but I bribed them with pizza, so I'm safe for now." Her reply came almost instantly. "Smart move. Want to grab dinner tomorrow? My treat." Vincent hesitated for a moment. Was he ready for this? Then he thought about how easily Sophia had made him laugh during their coffee chat, how natural it had felt. Sure, let's do it. The restaurant was small and tucked away, the kind of place that only locals knew about. Vincent arrived early, his nerves buzzing in a way they hadn't in years. When Sophia walked in, wearing a bright yellow scarf that matched her energy, he felt some of the tension ease. "Hey," she said, flashing her trademark grin. "Hope you're hungry. They've got the best risotto here." "Hungry's an understatement," Vincent said, pulling out her chair before sitting across from her. The conversation flowed as easily as it had during their coffee meetup. They talked about everything: work, parenting, old college stories. But this time, the conversation turned a little deeper. "So," Sophia said, twirling her fork in her pasta, "how's everything? With the kids? With you?" Vincent paused, taking a sip of his drink before answering. "Better. The kids are adjusting. They're stronger than I gave them credit for. And me? I'm figuring things out." Sophia tilted her head, studying him. "That's a good answer. Honest." He shrugged. "I've had a lot of practice being honest lately." She smiled softly. It suits you. There was a beat of silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was one of those rare, quiet moments that didn't need filling. So, she said, breaking the moment with a sly grin, am I your first post-divorce dinner date? Vincent laughed. If you count dinner that doesn't involve cutting someone else's food or mediating arguments about crayons, then yes. Well, lucky me, she said, raising her glass. Here's to new beginnings. To new beginnings, he echoed, clinking his glass against hers. That night, as Vincent lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, he felt something shift inside him. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel like a blank, empty space. It felt like something he could shape, something that might even hold joy again. He wasn't sure where things with Sophia would go, but he didn't need to know. For now, he was content to take it one step at a time. In the months following the divorce, life took on a new shape for Vincent and Natalie. At first, the wounds were fresh, the air heavy with unspoken regrets and lingering tension. But slowly, as days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the sharp edges of their pain began to dull. For the kids, their parents' decision to keep things civil made all the difference. Vincent and Natalie coordinated schedules seamlessly, attended school events together, and made sure the children never felt like they had to pick sides. Birthdays were celebrated as a family, even if it meant sharing a table with their past. Natalie found her footing in her new reality. While she'd never fully forgive herself for her mistakes, she began to understand that clinging to a broken marriage would have caused more harm than good. The divorce forced her to reevaluate her choices, to grow in ways she hadn't imagined, and for that, she was quietly grateful. Vincent, too, felt a weight lift. Though the process of letting go had been grueling, he found clarity and peace on the other side. He no longer carried the bitterness he'd felt in the beginning. It had been replaced by acceptance. He and Natalie were better as co-parents than they had been as partners in those final, strained years. That realization brought a sense of relief he hadn't expected. As for the kids, they adjusted in their own ways. Emily became the protector, always checking in on her younger siblings. Jake threw himself into sports, finding a healthy outlet for his energy. Sophie channeled her emotions into art, creating vivid paintings that spoke louder than words. And Max, the youngest, seemed to bounce back the quickest, his innocent optimism reminding everyone that life goes on. For Vincent, life took a turn he hadn't planned. His friendship with Sophia blossomed into something more, a relationship built on laughter, shared history, and the easy comfort of two people who understood life's messiness. They took things slowly, careful not to rush, but Vincent found himself smiling more than he had in years. One evening, as he and Sophia walked through the park near his apartment, she turned to him and asked, "Do you think it's possible to really start over?" He thought for a moment, then smiled. Not just possible, necessary. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to the channel. I wish you a great mood and good luck.